Alrighty guys, welcome back for more Path of Exile. So this is going to be one of the most important and more so final videos for our playthrough progression here. And the reason why is because we're going to be getting our last Void Stone, and then we are going to be able to have the freedom to pretty much do whatever we want. And we can also invest in getting these extra like favorite map slots, because what these favorite map slots require you to do is something in the game, and some of these have some sort of objectives. And what a favorite map slot is, it's going to have a higher chance to essentially get that map as one of your maps that drops when you're just playing the game. So for starters, our main goal is to defeat the Maven, but we can get a little bit stronger before that. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be getting our last ascendancy point for the Wildwood. So basically, how you acquire this is you can just go into any map, and if you want to engage in Maven while doing this, because Maven's going to take several different maps anyways to eventually progress towards it. Basically, just like the other Eater of Worlds and Searing Exarch, you're going to have to enable the Maven. It will make the bosses harder, but it will also give you more rewards, and it will progress your Maven progression. So basically what I would suggest most people do, you can see this one has Reflect LE damage. I can't actually do this map, so what I would have to do is scour it. These maps will eventually get harder and harder with these different mods, but you still have to make sure you can do those mods if you actually open up the map. So our main goal, pretty much at this point in the game, is to go to the Wildwood and get the last ascendancy. Now it's going to be random, but we're going to have to try to spawn in this boss. I'll show you guys kind of what the boss looks like, but basically we're going to be going in these areas and hopefully getting some sort of a boss. Now again, this is completely random. I'm not going to show you guys just doing this, because I'm just going to cut it to the part where I get the boss. It's random if it spawns in or not, but that is kind of be your next goal towards like the final stages, which is defeating the Maven. So I wanted this video to be for everyone in terms of the endgame. I will link the exact build that I used, and don't feel you have to copy everything exactly. For example, I might have needed strength and intelligence to actually equip pieces of gear, so this bow helped me out with that. Whereas I actually have another bow that I actually prefer, but it doesn't give me the extra stats that I needed. So that can definitely be a thing. But ideally, this is going to be trying to power up your character to the point where it is as powerful as possible. So again, I'll go ahead and show you guys what I use for the gameplay. I'll link that over in the pinned comment. But I really recommend you guys to actually learn how to play the game versus just trying to copy the exact build. You can definitely copy the exact build, and I will eventually still get stronger. We're still not even at maximum power. The thing with Path of Exile is you can always pretty much get stronger and stronger. I didn't even use this double corrupted Hyrie's Truth amulet over here, but you can always get stronger, and I wouldn't want to equip pieces of gear that are going to be like unattainable for a beginner. So there's no Nimbus ring right here. While I would love to have that ring, ideally you just try to get 2 6 links. So the bow is pretty easy to get 6 links. You just go ahead and go to the Path of Exile trade website, look for anything that has elemental, like, high elemental damage. Ideally, if you can get an iron, it's great for damage and spell suppression, but get like 2 6 links. That's kind of what you want on the Maven, because a lot of builds can incorporate 2 6 links. If your build happens to be able to do it, like you have another two-hander, then it's still advisable. And we are running an artillery ballista setup, and some of the gems over here, I don't even have Awakened Cold Pen like maxed out here. There's a lot of stuff where I could get much better gear, but the whole goal of doing Maven is to try to get your character as strong as possible, because this boss fight is not easy. You can see I have a bunch of divines, some chaos orbs, so I could get some upgrades too, but I want to go ahead and show you guys the best method to actually acquire the knowledge to be able to get your build as strong as possible. So this is POE.ninja, and I highly recommend this website, and I'll get into more of the gameplay here in a second, but this is a great tool, and I've mentioned it several times. And I'll also go over another video later, and I'll update a video on different tools that you can use, like the Awakened Path of Exile trade and stuff like that. But this is a great website. So if you just click on builds over here, you can go to the search filter and you can type in whatever skill that you're using. Remember, I said this build can be any of the bow skills. So if you want to run Ice Shot, you can do that. If you want to run Lightning Arrow, or if you're playing a completely different build, maybe you're playing Bone Shatter, right? If you are playing whatever build, use this website. It's a great tool. So let's say, since I'm using bow here, let's type in Ice Shot, or let's say Tornado Shot. I personally just prefer the way Ice Shot interacts, and I want to sort by, let's say, the DPS. Now, is this always going to show up what the best character in the game is? For the bossing, it actually is pretty good just to look at whatever is dealing the most DPS. A lot of bosses in Path of Exile and the gameplay experience is to try to just get as much damage as possible, so you can actually kind of cheat the mechanic of the boss because you just do so much damage to the point where you can kind of avoid some of the stuff. So ideally, you try to look for something. Now, it depends on the class you're playing. The Deadeye Ascendancy or Pathfinder, because you can actually play either here, can actually get away with a little bit lower of life. But if you're looking at something and you eventually see something with like 2,000 life, that could be a very squishy build, and it's kind of not advisable to actually copy these exactly, because this is just kind of showing on the DPS chart which thing is doing the most DPS with whatever skill. But let's say over here, let's look at this one. This has got 3,700 life. That's pretty good life. Now I'm guessing it's going to have certain things that are going to be super expensive. There are going to be some double corrupted like items here, or that'll have like a bottle faith that could be very expensive for the build. Some of these charms can actually be very expensive as well. Getting things like additional arrows can be pretty big. So again, our main goal is to actually use that as kind of a reference. Again, you don't have to copy everything exactly, but our goal with this part is to actually do the boss, and you guys will see gameplays of the boss. I've actually swapped off of running, what was it called? There's like the two new, or there's actually 3 different ascendancies. We were only realistically using 2. So there was the ascendancy, so we were using the Warden before with Oath of the Magi. Now, if you want to stick with that, by all means, hey, stick with that. You can get extra defenses here. You can still use the Tincture. I'm just kind of here to show you guys everything here. And I actually think that the Warden is actually one of the best if you don't have currency. But if you happen to have a lot of currency, I would suggest running the Primalist, because you have these charms that are pretty good. And if you're wondering what are the charms that we used for our build, well, I just used these things to get extra spell suppression. I actually got myself more resistances here. But these can be, if you get them for cheap, you can sometimes get these and snipe them for a little bit less. You can get them for anywhere from like 80 to 1 Divine, 80 Chaos Orbs to a Divine, to try to get spell suppression as well as getting the projectiles to gain damage as they travel, because when we shoot, remember those projectiles come back, and while they're coming back, that is going to increase the damage because it counts that the whole way. Ideally, we would get a Nimbus Ring, and then I wouldn't have to run returning projectile support. Then I can run some extra source of damage here with my build. And again, I will link my build that I use for the gameplay that you're about to see down below. But at the end of the day, it's all about making your character as strong as possible, and do this before the Maven. I'll show you guys gameplay of the new King of the Mist boss. There's actually a small little mechanic that he has, so we're going to go ahead and show that off, and then we're going to show off how we're going to be doing the Maven. Again, just go ahead and throw in your maps and go into the underground area, and you can do this while simultaneously trying to find the boss, because remember, the Maven boss, you're just going to get these splinters, and then eventually, once you get 10, you can just do the Maven guaranteed. But the other King of the Mist boss for this league on Affliction, he spawns in randomly, and I believe it's tier 14 or higher is what you need to do. You can't just do like, tier 1 maps and try to get the boss to spawn in. And you will actually need to do the thing where you have to kill, I think it's like 400 of like these unnamed monsters in order to progress. And then eventually it'll say like, find the king inside these areas. Again, make sure that you're able to do the maps. But yeah, you'll go in and, well, we're already in this area over here, but if you just go outside over here, we can go straight to the... If you just stand in like the darkness, basically, it will force you to go outside of the area. But basically, just keep on going here. Eventually, you will find the boss. What are the chances of... I don't know. Maybe it's about like 1 in 20. So while you're doing it, do both kind of at the same time. One important thing real quick that can apply to all builds. Remember, everything that I'm mentioning is always going to be optional. With any build, there are some niche things. So I like to get this thing on most of my builds that deal elemental damage called Secrets of Suffering. So this is acquired by getting these new jewels, and these newer jewels are called cluster jewels. Now I don't have to put this one in particular in this exact location. I have another set of cluster jewels, but I haven't gone over this mechanic as it is something that is a little bit new, and I kind of want to explain this. So what a cluster jewel is, it extends your skill tree beyond the normal skill tree, and you can get certain things that aren't actually in like the normal skill tree. And you can acquire these by going to the Path of Exile trade website. I'm going to go ahead and actually throw that up in another tab over here. So if I went to the Path of Exile trade website and I wanted to try to get something similar to exactly what we have in the gameplay that you're about to see, is I'm going to look for a cluster jewel that is a large one. And on large cluster jewels, you want to make sure that it is an 8 passive, because if you go beyond that, what happens is you're going to be wasting skill points. So again, this is optional, but I'm going to explain it as I think it's kind of a pretty good thing to have. So this cluster jewel is an 8 large cluster jewel, and it specifically has Fuel the Fight as well as Heavy Hitter, and it has another one called Calamity. So these over here are basically other skills that you can acquire by getting again, cluster jewel. So you can type in the word allocate, or you can just type in like if you want to have this certain enchant or whatever. But the other way is to just type in like heavy hitter, and it'll say one added passive skill is heavy hitter. So I can just type in search, and you can see the cluster jewel, and you can see how much these cost. Now I purchased this one for I think like 30 chaos orbs, and the other one that I have over here is fuel the fight. So we type in fuel the fight, and you can see whichever one that has like these two. The other one, you can see like these are pretty cheap, but you want to make sure it has 8 passives, because if it has more, then it might not be good. You can see this one has a corrupted, but those are all the extra bonuses, like two-handed weapons. A bow is a two-handed weapon, I believe, so you can actually get a benefit off of that. But you can see basically how we acquire the cluster jewel. So in order to actually unsocket this, I'd have to refund a bunch of the points, but I'll just show you how it looks like on this one. Now you don't have to get this like cluster jewel over here where it grants these other skill points and extends your skill tree. It's optional. But the one that I highly recommend for any elemental damage build is to get what's called the interrogation. Now this jewel over here, let me check out the price on it, because I bought it when it was about a divine. Let me go ahead and just reset the search, because it's going to have all the other search parameters. So if you type in the interrogation, it's a small cluster jewel. I'm just typing the search. Let's see, it's basically a divine still. This is a really good thing. This one doesn't have any cool corruption on it, but if you can get one that has like immunity to corrupted blood, that'd be cool, but it's probably going to be very expensive. Now how does this work? So basically this extends your skill tree, but you can see if I have refund points, it's going to consume the refund point. So how this works is, normally I would just at least get, I would recommend to get the interrogation. So what this does, and since we are running an elemental damage build, we will inflict ignite, chill, as well as the freeze or shock. But we're going to not be able to do it. It's going to disable that. So that's no like damage over time with ignite, the chill to slow, or when they're frozen, or shocking them to make them take more damage. So we lose out on all of that. But what do we gain in return? Since we are a crit build, we always will be doing like that. On a crit, we're going to be chilling, freezing, shocking them based on the amount of damage we deal. But instead, we inflict Scorch, Brittle, and Sapped. So the difference between Ignite, Chill, Freeze, and Shock is now we're doing Scorch, Brittle, and Sapped. So Scorch enemies have their elemental resistance lowered. Since we don't really do fire damage here, we don't have like a Trinity build, it's not going to be really giving a high number on it. But the only thing we really care about is the Brittle. So Brittle makes it so you have up to a 6% critical strike chance. And that is base crit. Base crit is absolutely astronomical. Our base crit on a thicket bow is only 5. So this basically doubles our crit chance, because we have a 6.25. This is massive for any build. Now it won't show up in the damage sheet, but I will kind of show you guys kind of the example of how much more damage we deal with this enabled. So you can see if I put this in, it doesn't just give me that thing, it adds this. So I have to put in the skill point and hit apply. This applies to all of the cluster jewels, but to show you guys kind of how much more damage this thing adds, it is crazy on the amount of crit strike chance that this provides. Granted, that is if everything in the configuration, like what I would need to do is make sure everything is like checked in, like the flasks are active, and then we'd also go to the configuration and then also apply brittle, and let's say it's at 6% brittle. I'll move my face out of the way. Again, I know this is kind of complex and this is all optional, but I'm trying to teach you guys the game. And eventually, you know, that would make our defenses go up like crazy is getting something like called lightning coil. But for the most part, this is like an insane boost on our damage. So the difference between enabling and disabling brittle, look at this right here. I just want you to look at the Vault Ice Shot on the regular Ice Shot. You can see our DPS right now and our crit strike, our crit chance is 53.19. Now I didn't even enable, like there's a lot of other things in this configuration that we can probably enable, like I do have frenzy and power charges because I have the mana forged arrows. You can see right now we have basically a million DPS. We actually have more than that, but I'm not going to go check in everything right now because I feel like it's unnecessary. But if I was to check in brittle, look at how much more damage. And this is just with those 2 skill points, because we have this gem socket as well as the Secrets of Suffering with the interrogation. We basically gain like 50% more damage with just this. So we go from our combined DPS total of 1.2 million to 1.79. And this is actually more than that. And the thing with Path of Exile is it's kind of hard without using separate tools, and I'll make a separate video on the tools in this game, but it's kind of hard to judge how much damage something is dealing because, for example, this returning projectiles, it doesn't even show any damage added. Now, it does actually give us massive amount of extra damage because all of the damage when the arrow travels is going to be increased by this thing over here. Even though if I disable this, again, it doesn't show up, but if I remove like Awaken Cold Pen, this one will actually affect it in the damage sheet. Whereas Awaken Cold Pen, in here in Path of Exile, you can see if I go to offense and let's say I go to the Ice Shot over here, again, this is not counting when I have all my buffs up, but if I was to take the Cold Pen, this doesn't even change my damage realistically. The reason why it does actually change it right here is because we have that extra 10% increased cold damage, but for the most part, it's not counting that extra penetrating 39 cold res. So a lot of these things you just have to kind of know, and that's the thing with Path of Exile. It's such a complex game that like not everything is 100% accurate when you look at this, because the returning projectile will also deal damage, and that's not counting, oh, well, if there's another target, and if it's chained to it, there's so many other complex things. But I just had to mention this really quick before I get into the gameplay, because cluster jewels kind of need to be explained a little bit, and that's just like a brief explanation of the cluster jewel, and specifically the interrogation. It is pretty big to get for any elemental build. As long as you can do that brittle, it's really huge for any crit build in the game. But anyways, let's go ahead and just roll like the bosses and all the gameplay. Alright, so coming over to the boss. So, this boss is actually not too hard. I didn't have my Vault Ice Shot up yet. So all we need to do is really watch. This is the brand new boss for the new league, but you can go up there and kill those things. Okay, so there is at some point where he will say to not move, and when he says that, yeah, don't move, don't stand in the giant AoE. But he's actually a pretty easy boss, so if you do move, he's gonna make it so you get imprisoned. As long as you have some flasks, it's not that bad. Sometimes you have to go up over here. Kill this effigy over here, which you're gonna have to walk up. I don't believe you can hit it from the bottom, but he's actually not too bad. So eventually, once you get him low enough, he'll teleport away. And here's the part that I failed on multiple times. So you have to follow these little wisps. If you don't follow the wisps, well, you're gonna have a really bad time, because you have to find the exit, and if you don't find the exit fast enough, well, you just lose, because there's a degen that comes out, and the degen will just melt you. The boss fight should be pretty easy, as long as you just don't stand in the AoE. Here he is, the King of the Mists. Here he is. So he told us to keep running. Ooh, I was kind of close over there. But if you don't listen to it, and when he says not to move or when to move, yeah. But we're just gonna burst him down at this point. Woo! All right, wait for his drop though. Important thing, I learned about this through someone else dying, but do not stand in the AoE. Okay, it's bad. It does damage. Now, he can drop a charm that's worth something, but the pragmatism is not really worth anything. It's like 5C. Maybe if you got like some perfect rolls, maybe you get a little bit more. It's actually got a pretty unique effect. It's plus 12 level of socketed skill gems. But once you're done with that, we get the final points here for our character, which is pretty cool. Oh, let's get rid of that. Okay. So now we just have to return to the Warden, and then we'll be able to get our last points on our secondary ascendancy. So that is the King of the Mists boss fight and mechanic. The brand new boss defeated. So what we got to do for a while, we got to go put in these maps, and then we got to check this, make sure that this is here. And you can see this one is 2 out of 3. We're just gonna rush straight to the boss over here, and we're gonna be doing several of these as we got to go up in tier, and then we're gonna fight the Maven thing. So let's go ahead and just get this done out of the way. This is kind of an annoying boss though, the Crimson Township. The reason why is if you don't kill him fast enough, he's going to actually make it so you just take a bunch of degens. But it doesn't really matter as long as it says Maven is able to witness the maps. He's supposed to be harder, but now eventually we're going to get these green drops. This is the Maven's invitation, and we're going to go ahead and just go in, and we are going to fight the Maven. Well, eventually you're going to have to keep on getting more Atlas points. It's just like the Eater World Searing Exarch. You now select the Maven. It makes the boss fights sometimes really hard, but we're going to go ahead and go in. I forgot we got to actually activate these. But now you're going to be fighting all the bosses that you fought previously for the Maven interaction. And then you'll also be able to get some extra Atlas points. There we go. And we're going to have to do this multiple times, and then eventually we're going to be able to fight the Maven. So eventually we're going to get the Atlas one. This one requires 14 or higher maps, and we're going to do this one now. So it's a long progression. It'll take maybe... Actually, it takes you about an hour to go through all the maps and stuff, and it depends how fast you're doing it and if you're stopping for other things. But this is going to be the next challenge, and when you're activating any of the things, it's going to make the fights harder. Probably don't need the movement speed one, but oh, that's a slam attack, and most slam attacks in this game you're going to rip. But you have 6 portals in Maven, so it's totally fine. And some areas will have these little balls that if they follow you, they'll do damage. And activate that. And I think we're good. Oh, there's one more. You see, we're just melting the bosses. We're also getting melted. Okay. So now we just got our Crescent Splinter. Now, okay, so it's going to require us to do this more and more times. Now we need to get 10 Crescent Splinters. Now they sell for about maybe like 30 chaos each. So our goal is to get the Maven's Writ. And so that will cost about 2 divines if you want to just get the Maven's Writ. And I have one prepped right here, so we're going to go do the boss over here. It's time to do the Maven. So let's go and throw in the Writ and see how we do on it. This is a really tough boss fight. Really tough boss fight. So I might rip a couple times, but that's okay, man. We got 6 portals. The main thing that I don't like about it is the memory game. Alright, so let's go, and I got 100% focus on this until it comes to the memory game, and I take the rip on it. Because it's like super hard to do for a lot of people. And for the first time doing the memory game is really rough. So starting right off, we're just gonna go ahead and just do some damage. Nothing too special. So don't get hit by the stuff. Don't actually stand still when she says that. So we did enough damage. Also, there's like these balls, and when this thing starts expanding from the center, we're gonna go straight towards the edge, and that's gonna do a big slam pop, and if it hits you, you're dead. Also, this part, if any of the lasers touch you, you will lose out on the ability to be able to regen, which is massively bad. So you do a bunch of damage. So now this is the part that I really dislike. This is the memory game. So now we're gonna have to play like basically like Simon Says. So it's gonna be top, left, right. So you'll see it's gonna go top, left, right. Okay, I was too close to the center, but what we're supposed to do is go into the other tile, and then we're going to be A-okay, and that's how we actually normally would survive it. But that mechanic alone is like, I mean, I had the pattern down, I was just way too close. Have all this pop on the same area, so that all the degens are in the same. Ideally, just not in the center. Now we get the damaged Maven. That pink beam will one-shot. So we'll be very careful with this thing. This is like the only part that I feel like is like relatively easy and fair. The rest of the stuff on Maven, I really don't like. Everything is super mean. And also spawns in random bosses, so you can get unlucky and spawn in a boss that just randomly just deletes you out of existence. Okay, now we're back to the memory game, which I really hate. So let's see where it starts off on. So it starts off here. So left, top. Okay, this one's actually not that bad. So it's right here, then we go right here. And there we go, we got it. But a lot of times it's not that easy, man. That was like a really lucky, easy one. Move out of the way. That laser that is actually okay to actually get hit by. And this is the easy, this is like the only easy part of the Maven. Then the lasers. And he'll summon extra bosses. But this, it's not that bad. Okay, now we gotta play the game while she also has the lasers going off. I think I got touched by the laser. I don't even know where she's at. Yeah, see, I didn't pay attention at all to where the lasers are. Or where the mechanic is at. Oh, I stepped on the wrong one. It's the wrong one. It started out over here. So, once this happens, where you like fail it, be very cautious on walking in again. Like, when you go in, don't move. Let like the laser like kind of cycle by. And now I'm gonna try to actually fight her. My goal is usually just to out DPS her, because I think it's actually generally the better strat. Because realistically, getting all, like, she's almost gone. The main problem is usually the memory game, but sometimes you get hit once by something and like, yeah, you're just gonna rip. So I'm just gonna let her do that thing for a second. Some of these things feel a little bit nasty. It's back to the games, which, again, I don't know if it was this one. I think it started off as this one, and then it's basically a rotation. The problem is that like you also are racing against the clock, so even if I'm like able to do it, oh, it's just gonna pop. So we still have a couple more, and we're gonna use all of them. We got 2 more portals. Unfortunately, we died once, where I felt like it was kind of unfair, but. But we got her. But this is the boss that I really, really dislike. Let's see what we got. So we got an Orb of Conflict, got some boots, and we got an Awakened gem. And we can actually use this one. So Awakened Control Destruction. It's not really worth anything right now. But if you do level it up, they are worth stuff. Now, the Orb of Conflict is actually pretty good. 72 Chaos. The boots are worth like nothing. It's like 15 Chaos. And what else did we get from it? The most important thing is we get the Void Stone. That's what we actually are really here for. And now we have basically completed it, like for the most part. There are other bosses. We can actually get a skill point book. Go ahead and pop that. And you can see, even playing this game for a really long time, I actually respect out of getting projectiles and chain, because there really isn't anything to chain to. It's just the boss. If I was running like Tornado or Hydrosphere, then the Ricochet could actually do something. But to have a little bit safer experience and to get more damage, I respect into these for it. And a lot of builds may need to do some sort of respecking. You can maybe remove some HP and get more damage, because you have 6 portals. You might as well try to take advantage of them. But now that we've done that, we just have to do this. This is the last thing we really need to do, is go ahead and throw in the Void Stone, and now you'll see all the maps are going to be tier 16, which is awesome. Alrighty, so you defeated the Maven. Congratulations. That is not an easy thing to do at all. But we still have more things to do in Path of Exile. It's kind of up to you on what you want to do for your endgame. Do you want to be a boss rusher? You can actually make currency by advertising, hey, I can defeat this boss. If you guys need some help, give me 100 Chaos Orbs. I will kill the Maven for you. Or I will kill the Shaper, or I will kill the Uber Elder. That is another way that you can make currency in the game, is by advertising services. There is a Discord for it called called the Forbidden Trove. It's probably one of the best suggestions that I can give you guys, but it's kind of up to you on what you want to do for the endgame. There are more bosses, but this is basically the main source of the endgame. You just get all of your 4 stones, and then all of the maps are tier 16, and you can kind of run the maps that you want to. You can get these extra favored map slots. They will tell you kind of how to get them, but this is the basic core form of, like, you finished Path of Exile. You've done the main set of it. Now, can you go into the Atlas and defeat some of these bosses and make them even harder? You can make the Maven harder. You can make the Shaper harder. You can do these other forms of endgame content, and what I would recommend you guys to do is check out some of the different challenges that are available in the league. So you can click on this. I have my default key to H, but I don't know what the default one is. But basically, you can open up these and you can see all these different little objectives here. And if you complete these challenges will then unlock you free cosmetics. And so that is another form of endgame content. But for the most part, you have completed Path of Exile. You are now in the 0.01% of the players that actually made it to the endgame. So congratulations. But this is not the end of the Path of Exile experience. It's kind of up to you what you want to do. Do you want to build a new character now? Do you want to get more currency? Do you want to make your character way stronger? Even though you've already defeated pretty much like the endgame boss, yeah, there is a harder variant of Maven. You can do the Feared. You can do other things in the game that can be considered harder, but you've pretty much done it. Now, you can make your character way stronger. I mean, we're still at less than half the DPS that we can achieve towards, like, the higher stages of the game by getting things like Mage Blood or Headhunter, which will take a long time. But I'm going to keep it real with you guys. Most players will never really try to really push that far. They're kind of happy once you get like your four Void Stones, and then they kind of do whatever they want to do. That's realistically how most people play Path of Exile. But if you're getting burnt out, I highly recommend you guys to maybe just hold off, wait until the next league, or make a new character. If you're getting kind of bored of playing the same character in Path of Exile, that's totally normal, because you've kind of min-maxed. But the beauty with Path of Exile, you don't really have to make a brand new character. I can respec my Ascendancy. I can go into a completely new Ascendancy if I want to. Let's say, let me go and import my build real quick over here. But like, let's say I'm tired of playing this. I can use those Orb of Regrets and go and redo the Ascendancy, and then I can go on my skill tree and I can be like, okay, well, I want to try out, like, let's say some sort of Poison Pathfinder, right? I can try out that, or maybe I want to swap into Raider. I don't actually have to start off at level 1. I can start off at level 95 and basically use my Orb of Regrets and respec. Or maybe I just want to play something else. Unlike in games like Diablo, where, like, the sorceress is basically a caster, I can convert this into a sword-wielding character. I can convert it into a spellcaster. I can do a lot more. So if you're getting bored and you're already at the end game, you're like, well, my character's super powerful, I'm happy with it. Great. If you want to play more, I highly recommend swapping to another class. But anyways, that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for this session of our Path of Exile walkthrough guide. This is pretty much like the end of it, but I'll still upload more Path of Exile videos, obviously, and we'll do more later in like the next league. But I might upload some other videos showing you guys how to make currency and other little tools and guides, because at this point, you probably have noticed so many items are on the ground to where it is so overwhelming, and you may want to get what's called a loot filter. But I never mentioned these things at the very beginning, because in the very beginning when you're playing a game, it's kind of like confusing when people are like, okay, download all 5 of these different extensions on your computer, and then now you can start playing the game. That's why I kind of mentioned it towards the end, but I'll make an updated guide on tools, but I'll link my old one down below because it still applies, but I will make an updated guide very soon. But that's going to wrap things up. If you guys enjoyed it, drop a like on it, and congratulations, you have finished what like 99% of players did not do. But yeah, it's awesome. Anyways, take care, and I'll see you in the next video.